Welcome to the Upshot Interview Series. This is number 7, and we're going to be joined today by Ricky Wysocki, number 1 ranked player in the world, number 1 rated player in the world, and coming into the season after having won basically every single Player of the Year award that there was. So Charlie Eisenhood and Josh Mansfield getting ready to talk with Ricky. And look, this is just a great interview, Josh. I feel like every offseason we talk to Ricky, and it's always good. And it's got a little of everything here. You're going to hear about some of the discs that he's working on, his thoughts on the harp versus the pig, his thoughts on Innova's contracts, and a whole lot more. Plenty, talking about players that he thinks are his biggest challengers. Paul McBeth was not number 1 on the list, Josh.
I mean, I think an afterthought is almost the way I would describe the way Paul was talked about. So it's a great interview. It's a really good interview.
We're excited to share it with you. So thanks for joining us here. Stay tuned. Ricky Wysocki with us next here on The Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. From 3D modeling to technical materials, Pound utilizes current technology to push product development beyond the current boundaries. Plus, they test multiple prototypes in the lab and in the field, and they build all their packs in the USA. Don't settle for a copycat. Get a Pound bag at PoundDiscGolf.com. Joining us now on the Upshot is world number 1 and sweep Player of the Year sweeper, Ricky Wysocki. He takes down all the big awards. Ricky, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. No, glad to be here. Thanks for having me, and super excited to have the new PDGA player ranking and be the number 1 in the world for the first ranking of the year.
It's quite an accomplishment, and on the eve of the 2022 season, it's great to get a chance to talk with you. And, we've got a ton of questions. We're going to do our best to steer away from some of the topics that you've answered questions about ad nauseum to this point. Obviously, topics will be similar, but going to try to come at some different angles. The first question I have for you is, you've now won PDGA Player of the Year 4 times. You won it back in 2012. And then again in 16 and 17, and then, of course, this year in 2021. Does it feel any different this year? Like, does the pressure of coming in as the top player, number 1, feel different this year than it did after your pair of world championships in the mid-2010s?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it's because, there's even more pressure because it's like I have new sponsors. I got a new big contract. I've got, obviously the number 1 in the world, so there's a lot more riding on it than there ever has been in the past. But I think that's just a stepping stone in my career. The more you grow as an athlete and as a person, the more pressure you have on yourself. And that's kind of what comes with being in that spot. So it's something to where I've, gradually got more comfortable with that. And as with the growth of myself and, as a player and as an athlete. So I think I'm ready to handle it. So I'm super pumped for the challenge of, all the pressure that's going to be on me, with the start of the season and the events to come. So, but yeah, it's definitely a totally different spot heading into the season than I'm used to. But yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. It's like a fun new little challenge with a whole new bag of discs and having to try and go out there and prove that I'm still the best player in the world and back it up.
So speaking of that new bag of discs, you didn't come to the All-Star event in order to take extra time to work with those discs. How's the bag feeling? Are you pleased with that decision? Do you still feel like it was the right one?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to play the All-Star event. That's something that's really cool that the Pro Tour offers the players to kind of like a getaway weekend right before the season starts. I love the idea, and I really would love to have been a part of it, but it was just something that with the timing of my switch, I've been testing out discs like crazy, going to the field every day just with a stack of new molds, and just throwing for hours and hours, 3 and 4 hours a day, going out there throwing and then going to the practice basket putting for 2 hours. So it's like my day is literally filled with throwing discs, putting, throwing in the field, and so I needed that extra time, and because I'm doing as much as I can to test out as many discs as I can, and I'm liking what I'm throwing. I just want to make sure I test out as many as I can to make sure I'm adding all the discs and all the tools to my bag that I need to succeed at the highest level. So it wasn't that I didn't want to play. It was more just for me. I want to be 100% confident and ready for Vegas and just come out swinging.
What do you expect to be your workhorse discs in Vegas this weekend?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because I'm sure it's going to change throughout the season. It's usually really windy. So I've found these chameleon enforcers that are kind of like under the radar. Not many people know about them, but they got a good feel. They're like domey. They have like a nice pop top to them. So I noticed the pop top discs they can handle headwinds really well just based on the aerodynamics and how they fly. So the feel and the flight of them are going to be awesome. They're going to fly. They're going to hold up in the headwinds, which is what I'm looking for. That's something as a player, when we throw as hard as we do and you got a stiff headwind, you want to have a disc that's going to hold up and have a consistent finish. And so that's going to be my workhorse for that shot. And then harps. Harp was my disc. And that was, I obviously switched from harp to pig when I was with Innova, but harp was, that's kind of where I molded my scramble game, my approach game was with the harp. When I was first with Latitude. So that it's really awesome to have that back in my hand, and then the dagger. So dagger for putting, harp for upshots, and then enforcers and felons. So the orbit felon. So those are the 4 discs I'm going to be leaning on the most. Probably 70-80% of my shots are going to be with those, and then sprinkle in some other discs here and there.
Yeah. Okay, I have to ask you. Now, I know you can't answer this question in an unbiased way, but I'm going to ask you as unbiased as possible. Harp or pig? What's the better disc?
It's so hard because, like, in all reality, this is just straight off the top of my head. It is hard because it's a little different of a disc. Like the harp has better like forward momentum going forward. Like if you're throwing just like kind of like if you beat up a harp and it goes a little bit straighter than a pig. Pig has a little bit more stability. It doesn't go quite as far. So it's almost like I can use a harp like I can use a mid-range because it carries that extra 30, 40 feet that the pig doesn't. So I'm actually – and so the stability is a little bit more with the pig and the glide is a little better with the harp. So it just depends on the type of shot you're trying to throw. And it's hard for me to answer that because I haven't had enough time really to throw the harp. But I really do think the harp's going to be that, just what I remember. And then also I'm coming out with a new disc, which I don't know if everybody knows yet, but I'm designing a new disc. It's going to be a harp with a thumb track, and then they're going to add some stability to it. So I've had a hand in designing it.
Interesting.
So it's going to complement. Yeah, it sounds like another disc we've heard of, right? But it's the main point. The main point of it is to get that extra stability on the harp that it maybe doesn't have right now, and add the stability. So it's got the stability and it's got the feel that I want. And so yeah, it's gonna, and I'm gonna have both of them in the bag. It's not like I'm gonna have one or the other. I'm gonna have both.
It's funny because, I've been watching social media and we've got so many new players in the sport who have joined since 2019, 2020. And there were all sorts of posts like, well, if Ricky's not using the pig, what is he going to throw? Like, what is he ever going to use? And, these are the players that didn't know that you were using the harp back when you were with Latitude 64. I actually have a question. Speaking of new players, we have a lot of new listeners, people who aren't familiar necessarily with your journey would be the best way to put it. You are very health centered, and a lot of that I know comes from your battle with Lyme disease and that experience you had. Can you tell us a little bit about the early stages, when that happened? Kind of tell that story for listeners who may not have heard that before, and then how does that affect your game today?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking that because that's definitely a passion of mine that I've developed over the years for sure. So yeah, it was about when I was 25, 26 years old, I got Lyme disease actually when I made a trip to Europe. So that was the last trip I made to Europe. It was, I think it was 2019, I think. And that's when I got Lyme disease and came back and played the second half of the season here in the States and just started feeling real crappy. I didn't know what it was. and I just wasn't performing. And just because the natural side effects from Lyme is like fatigue, brain fog, all this stuff that directly affects you on the disc golf course when you're competing at our level. And so fast forwarding, yeah, I got diagnosed with Lyme disease and had to basically take control of my health and start working with a nutritionist. So my nutritionist had actually got Lyme disease, fought it with diet, good supplements, and just a super strict diet, no sugar, no processed foods, for literally like a year or 2 years. And now I'm still very clean. But I'm able to have a cheat day here and there. Whereas, when I was going through the initial Lyme attacks, it was like I couldn't cheat. Otherwise my joints would flare up and I wouldn't be able to even walk, let alone play disc golf. So it was something to where now, 2 or 3 years down the road, I've made changes. I've got a nutritionist. So there's a lot of things that I've done to actually better myself and my health from getting Lyme disease. And now that it's behind me, I'm able to move forward and what I can take out of it is a healthy game plan, eating super clean, being super strict. And I'm just the type of person where I go all in. If I find like disc golf, I went all in, started practicing all the time, and obviously get to the spot where I'm at today. And same with the diet. I'm working with a nutritionist. He forms a supplement game plan every month. We update it. And just treating my body right and prolonging my career, staying healthy, optimizing the years that I'm playing, and then also prolonging my career with all the health and wellness stuff that I'm doing. So that's something that's been really a passion of mine that kind of started as a negative with the Lyme disease. And then now I've turned it into a positive and let it influence me to today.
Do you have any advice for people on how to prevent getting Lyme disease, or if they do get it, how to make sure that they, get healthy as quickly as possible?
Yeah. So for me, I was unfortunately didn't find it until like days and weeks after. I think it was actually like 2 weeks after I got it. So the farther away that you diagnose it, the harder it is to treat. But the biggest thing is get tested or if you start feeling symptoms like fatigue and all these like muscle aches, all that stuff, definitely go in and try to. I know the antibiotics work best within 72 hours. I was past that, so I wasn't able to actually. It wasn't really. It could have worked, but it probably wasn't. It just the effectiveness goes way down the farther away you diagnose it from the tick bite. So definitely check yourself after rounds. It's so normally on the East Coast is where it's most prevalent. We're playing in trees, grass, and bushes and stuff. So definitely check yourselves after rounds. And I know I got bit, but I didn't really think about it. And then it really kind of attacked me like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. Some people, it lies dormant in their body for months and years even. So definitely get tested after you get a tick bite as soon as you can, because that, it's, if you catch it quick enough, you can just knock it out and not cause any problems. But if it's, you hear people and it can cause anywhere from joint stiffness to people going blind and everything in between. It can do all kinds of damage. But yeah, I'm also working with the Lyme Alliance, who's also, they're an organization they're like a foundation that's trying to get the word out. So I'm trying to be an advocate for them, and kind of, I think I'm going to actually be a public speaker at one of their conventions in New York later this year to go and just kind of share my story with the world and because there's a lot of people that have it and a lot of people that may not know they have it, and so just spread awareness, and I use my platform to do that, and I'm super thankful I am able to do that.
Speaking of foundations, you have already announced that you were going to be starting, but now have started the Sockibomb Foundation, which is going to focus on trying to get disc golf more into the mainstream as a recreational activity. And as of the time this will be airing, you will have already given out the first putt package to an elementary school, 100 putters in a basket to a Wynn Elementary School in Las Vegas. Well timed with the Las Vegas Challenge this weekend. So tell us a little bit more about how things have been going getting this started, and how many schools you're hoping to reach in this first year.
Yeah, so we're planning on doing 100 schools in the first year. like you said, 100 discs and a basket to every school. That's to every school that submits. So we're gonna have a submission program, and so that's super exciting because I always hear. For me, it was kind of like started with. I always heard people say, "Oh, I wish I started disc golf when I was younger. That would be so awesome." And so now it's the kids can grow up and say, "Hey, I'm so thankful I found disc golf from a young age." It's the opposite side of the spectrum as what you hear now. Like, "Oh, I wish I would have found it younger." So. I just want to reach a younger generation, give them the opportunity, get them the exposure to disc golf, and a lot of them may love it. And so I think this is going to be good for the sport, growing it from the grassroots level and really spending time, not going to every school. I would love to go to every school, but I'm actually going to go to the school and do a little, I think they're going to do a little assembly with me and have the kids around and do a little opening for the first school that's part of the foundation. So that's going to be cool. But yeah, it's important for me to, like I said, just get the kids involved, at a young age and be able to, like I said, go to as many schools as I can with the tour. I can't go to them all. But yeah, that's just the First Putt Foundation or First Putt initiative is just the first, I guess activity that we're going to be doing with the foundation. Then we're going to be doing lots of other stuff, lots of other initiatives after that. So, I'm super, super excited to get that rolling and show people. Like I said, I'm pumped to see all the disc golfers that I can meet. Maybe like a lot of school teachers that I may know can submit their schools, and we're going to be having an email that you guys can submit. So if you're a school teacher and you're listening to this, we're going to have an email. Stay tuned to my social media, and you can submit your school to actually be part of this program where we'll donate the discs and the basket. And get you guys going with that. So that's super exciting to be able to offer that to everybody in the community, as many as possible, at least.
And for your target schools, is that everything from elementary to high schools?
Yeah, I think.
Or are you targeting a more specific?
Yeah, so we're going to try to do a couple from each state. I think we're going to do mostly elementary and middle school is what we talked about for now. Just the younger kids. I thought the First Putt was a cool name because it might be a lot of the kids' actual first putt with a disc. So it's kind of a cool play on words. But yeah, so I think that, and it's our first initiative too. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, I think we want to start with the elementary, middle school age groups, and then kind of work our way up from there. And then eventually, you never know, start putting in courses at schools and then kind of grow from there. But yeah, I think this is a good initiative. I'm going to be doing, what is it? I think $10 per birdie I get on tour this year. And so I'm going to go donate every birdie I'm going to get. They're going to have like a birdie counter. And so every birdie I get is going to be donated. And then every ace that I get, hopefully is a bunch. I forget what the ace is, maybe like 500 or 1,000 every time I ace a hole, to the foundation. So yeah, I'm going to be doing some fun stuff throughout the season to be donating into the foundation. And yeah, that's going to be fun to keep track of. So
I want to kind of shift to talk a little bit about the tour and what's coming up here for you as a competitor. I want to pose a hypothetical to you. If you could go through 2022 and play much like you did in 2021, extremely consistent, top level finishes, winning multiple Elite Series events, but maybe only finishing inside the top 10 at majors and not winning them, or you can be less consistent. You can play worse on the pro tour week in and week out, but you can win 2 majors, let's say. Which option do you take?
That's tough. I would go for consistency every single time for me. I've always thought that I've respected athletes that can be consistent. And so that's for me, just my personality. I want to be consistently winning and consistently up top, near the lead. And I think that's what shows a true professional. A true professional isn't somebody that just comes in and plays good when they want to and when they feel like it. It's, the disc golf is from Vegas until the USDGC. It's not, hey, here, I'm going to just show up for this tournament and, take this week off, even though I'm playing the tournament. I can't really respect that as an athlete. I want to give it my all every week. And so if you're not going to win, you got to grind to fight and finish the best you can, even though you're not going to win, instead of just giving up and just say, oh, whatever, I'll come back next week. I'll win the next one. No, finish the best you can and then come back and win the next one next week too. So it's like, that's my mindset with it. I'm all about consistency, and obviously I'm trying to win them all, of course, as an athlete. But if I had to choose right now, I would say I would bypass the majors and play consistent and have more wins on the Elite Series, and maybe, like you said, top 5 or whatever at the majors.
So besides Worlds, because I think that's the obvious answer, you've got 3 other majors: USDGC, European Open, and the Players Cup, or Champions Cup, excuse me. Of those 3 majors, which one would be the most significant to you to win?
I think USDGC. I think USDGC is the one major I really haven't won. That one and European Open. And so European Open, it was kind of like when I won it, it was kind of like an off year where they moved it to Sweden instead of Europe, or instead of Finland. So I kind of won it, but I want to win the European Open. So USDGC is definitely the one that I want to win. I've gotten second, like, I don't even know how many times, 4 or 5. So that's something where, that's on my mind for sure. The USDGC, if I had to pick one tournament to win this year, it would be that one. Obviously, but if, like I said, the season's a lot more than just that. Paul won USDGC. Yeah, it was great and everything, but I mean, he just didn't play very well the rest of the tournaments, and he kind of salvaged his season with that. But yeah, for me personally, it was just, that's just one tournament that I haven't won yet, and that's why I want to, would love to take that win.
So assuming that you put yourself in number 1, which I have to assume that you're going to do that heading into this year, who do you pick as your top contenders? Like, and obviously we can just go down the rating list, but in your mind, who do you feel like you're going to have to work to beat in 2022 based on what you've seen from them over the last couple seasons and just your expectations for this year?
Yeah, I think Eagle and Calvin, those are in my head, the most competitor wise, skill wise, and all the shots they throw and how they handle pressure, how they play under pressure. Those are all variables that I look at to really judge someone that's at the very tippy top. And so those 3 are definitely, and obviously Paul, he's obviously in there too, but I think, Eagle for sure. And Calvin, the shots that they throw are impressive, and they putt well, and like I said, handle pressure when the time comes. So there's players that are good, and they're great players, and you put them in a spot and they just kind of shrink, and that just happens in all sports. Not saying it's, that happens. I do it too. It's not that I'm above that, but if I get in a spot and have a chance to win, I may win 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3 times. And I'm going to fail sometimes. That's when you get in a spot and have a chance to win. That's sports. You're not going to win them all, but it's a law. It's all averages. I might win more than the next guy because I feel like I handle pressure better than some people. And so that's kind of where it's at. And, that's why I win 4, 5, 6 tournaments a year. And maybe some other players don't, is because I may be in contention 8 times and maybe I win half of them, whereas someone else, they may be in contention 8 times and win 0 because they're not, equipped mentally, physically, whatever the situation may be. They don't know how to react when adversity hits or when the pressure's on at the last hole, that 30-foot putt for the win or to tie. Even me, like I said, I'm not going to make that every single time, but I just feel like I have a better percentage chance than most of the other players.
I have to ask, did you get a chance to see some of the All-Star weekend and see Eagle throwing lefty and parking drives? And I'm just curious for your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, that was awesome to see that. That was really cool. I thought that obviously that putt was ridiculous. That's the reason why I have a lot of respect for him. Is he's a great athlete, great player, and he's throwing lefty now. That's pretty impressive. I'm excited to see how much he throws it on tour, and maybe it can kind of save him because it sounds like he's not throwing sidearm as much. It can kind of fill in his sidearm shot. But yeah, it's that's a very impressive skill. I think that who knows, that may be the next generation. But but yeah, it's impressive to see him throwing that far and that accurate with the left hand. This shows a lot of work in the off season, dialing that in and dialing in the form. That's I definitely know what it takes, and that's awesome to see.
Before that, you added that last comment. I was going to say it's almost not fair that Eagle can throw that far lefty and righty, and then you're like, yeah, he just puts in the work, man. I was like, oh, okay, now I can't say that because you're right. I mean, he really is. Yeah. He's working hard. It's not about fairness. So when you announced your sponsorship change with Dynamic Discs, I think a lot of people were surprised because you were still technically in your multi-year deal with Innova and in the middle of that contract. So I'm curious, who approached who first about the Dynamic Discs deal? Did they reach out to you, or were you looking and possibly trying to get back with the Trilogy family at that time?
I think it was. I think it was Dynamic, actually. I'm not 100% sure. I think that's the way it went. But yeah, it was just, I saw the growth of the sport, and I just, it was just time for me. I saw it, where the sport was going. I saw where my brand was going, and I just saw that it was time to make a change. And like I said, part of it was, I feel like a new motivation for me. That's kind of something I need to spark my motivation. Is I feel like a new bag of discs, kind of like a new thing. And so that's kind of how I've always been. I need that little extra motivation, that little extra fire to get motivated for a new season. And that's kind of what I needed. But that's kind of how it played out.
Do you think Innova does enough for its top pros?
No. No, I don't. I think that, there's companies that go out there and they're growing with the times. The Dynamic Disc, the Discraft, the Discmania maybe. But yeah, I would say Dynamic Disc, the Trilogy family, and Discraft. I definitely have to shout out to them. I've never even been sponsored by them, but I just see from a player aspect, I see the Dynamics more than anybody in the sport. So I can tell you that those are the two companies to be sponsored by as a player. They treat you the best. They make good discs, and they're a spot that makes you feel comfortable and makes you feel like you're a part of something, and they can maximize your brand, and while also being a win-win for the player and for the brand. And there's a couple other companies out there that aren't like that, and I'm just happy to be involved with Dynamic for that reason.
Just to follow up, sorry, Josh. A lot of people have said, that your driving really improved when you went to Innova and you were able to throw the Destroyer. Obviously, Destroyer is the quintessential disc that everything else has kind of been based off of at other manufacturers for years and years. Do you feel like you have drivers in the bag that are going to work for you as well as the Destroyer as you get ready to start the season?
Yeah, I do. I feel like I've been throwing the Raider. That's kind of like it's a 13-speed driver, so it's a pretty wide rim. So I've got the Raider and the Enforcer. The Enforcer, I guess, would be the most equivalent to the Destroyer. But I think that the consistency of Dynamic Discs, that's what I like. That's what I've noticed is they can pump out discs like brand new discs that are good. Whereas like Innova, you have to go find discs from, 10 years ago, certain runs. And it's like that with all the companies. You got to find certain runs and certain molds of discs that fly good. But for Innova, it's like you have to go find a disc from 10 years ago. Whereas Dynamic, they can just pump out discs out of the mold, and they're super consistent with their process and how they make the disc, that you can just get one off the shelf and it'll fly great. Whereas some of the Innova discs, like you said, you have to go find discs from 10, 15, 20 years ago to find that good pop top certain Destroyer or whatever it is. And so that's the biggest thing I've noticed is they're just sending me new discs that are great. Whereas Innova, I had to go maybe on the Facebook pages to find a good run, or talk to some local buddies, or go to the course and ask people. Instead, Latitude just Dynamic sends me the goods, and they're making me discs exactly to my preferences, and that's exactly what we're doing with my line of discs also.
So that actually transitions well to my next question. Dynamic Disc has given you your line of discs that includes this new putter that we were chatting about. Kona is getting discs, but then that's also becoming a norm elsewhere. Kevin with Prodigy is getting his own Discraft. Obviously, Paige and Paul have theirs. DGA with Katrina. Eric Oakley is getting one through Infinite that, it seems like he was fairly involved in kind of at least production timing. So it's becoming a very popular trend for top athletes of these companies to get their own line of discs. Was that ever a conversation as part of your Innova contract or while you were still at Innova of trying to create your own line of discs?
I mean, kind of, not really. It was like they were going to a couple discs here and there, but it wasn't like they were going to do a whole line. And so Dynamic was just so open to, hey, let's build a line. We want to make exactly disc to your preference. How do they feel? What kind of disc do you like? Do you like pop top? Do you like stiff? Do you like a certain type of plastic? What kind of flight do you want for this shot? And so we just, I just was talking to him yesterday. We got it kind of finalized. We got, all the different discs, drivers through putter, and all, I think seven discs or 8 discs we're gonna have in the lineup by the time it's all said and done. But yeah, it's not just 1 or 2 discs here and there. It's a disc in driver, fairway, mid range, and within every disc, I have exactly the plastic that I want, exactly the flight that I want, exactly the profile of the disc that I want, and they're gonna go out there and they're gonna make it, and it's got my branding on it, it's got Dynamics branding on it. Yeah, so it's just been super refreshing to work with a company that actually is open to a player's feedback and says, hey, I want to do this. I think this would be great. It's good for me. I want my fans to be able to throw what I throw exactly to a T, not have to go out and find a disc with a certain run that I'm throwing. Because if you're throwing a disc from 2008 that was a good run, it's like your fans can't feel like they're a part of something when they can't even find it, or it costs for $80 or $100 online. So I'm able to promote discs that I genuinely like, and they're able to throw the discs that I throw, the exact same ones. It's the same run, same everything. And also another cool thing we're doing is we're going to have a Sockibomb engraving on the bottom of the mold. So it's going to have my brand on the bottom. So it's kind of a cool little brand touch to have that. And so just all the personal branding stuff, they're allowing me to grow as a brand, and it makes me want to support them even more because they're supporting me, and so that's just how it works. And so they're just a company that if you have good ideas and you have something you want to do, they're totally open to do it. And then if they can't do it, they'll tell you, hey, this is why we can't do it. Let's work through this, that, and the other thing, and get to the point where we can maybe do this idea that you represent to them. So either side, whether it's yes or no with them, they're super reasonable, super rational, and they're always open to work with you and make stuff happen. And that's in my eyes what makes a good brand for me as a player and as a brand. Because I'm as an athlete and as a brand. Because I'm 2 different separate entities almost.
So you told us about the Thumb Track more stable harp. What are some of the other discs that are going to be in the lineup? Just descriptively.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a Raider. It's going to be like a pop top, because I've always liked pop top distance drivers. Pop top Raider. It's going to be semi-stiff plastic, and it's going to be a little bit more overstable than the Raiders that we have now. So it's going to be tweaked. It's not going to be the exact same version of a Raider, because obviously, like for me, I have a lot of power and I want to have that extra stability to know that it's, I can throw it real hard and it's going to hyzer back out at the end and have that consistent finish. So the Raider is going to be one. Obviously the putter, we're still working through names on that. We don't know what the name's going to officially be. But yeah, so we got that one. Then so there's a couple of them that I'm working through right now that I like the Explorer. I like the Evader. So there's a couple discs right now that we're still not 100% dialed in with. And then the Dagger, we're just we're working on I like the Dagger so much that I'm just working on a certain plastic for me. So it's going to be just the perfect blend of like soft but still stiff to have that consistent feel out of my hand. So some discs we're critiquing the actual flight, the feel, and the profile of the discs. Some discs we're just critiquing just the plastic because I already like the mold, so there's no reason to really change the whole mold. And so yeah, there's like I said, there's multiple facets to a disc, and they're willing to, like I said, help me with whatever I want to make the disc exactly how I want it. And so yeah, we're starting with those first, the Dagger, the Raider kind of equivalent, but it's going to feel like a Raider, but it's going to be a little different flight, a little different feel. And then the Dagger. So those are the first 3. And then we haven't officially done the rest of them, but obviously that process takes time. So we're going to work on those first and then go to the fairways and the mids after that.
So last question from me. We've talked a lot on the show about different players getting support staff, I guess is the way to put it, agents, nutritionists, social media managers, tour managers, whatever that may be. Who comprises and what roles do you have in your support staff?
Yeah, so basically, I've got Ari, who's my tour manager, and she helps with all kinds of stuff. She helps with sponsor emails. She helps with pretty much everything, day to day Airbnbs, packing, unloading the van, setting up signings, working with shops to do signings. Just all the day to day stuff that you wouldn't think on tour. Printing shirts, putting all my sponsors on shirts. That takes time. That takes cutting the vinyl, pressing the shirts, going out and shopping and buying cool shirts. So just pretty much, I guess you would say like a personal assistant almost too. Tour manager, personal assistant, accountant, tax person. I mean, she's probably like 6-7 people within one. So yeah, she's been amazing, and she's able to be on tour. So she's able to see the day to day. She's able to see the dynamics with how the tour runs, how, what I want to do, my routine, how I want to get to the course, practice in the morning. And, so it's just, it helps so much, takes so much stress off. And so that's super important. But then obviously got the LWS, they're a tax service, and they're turning in, Blake, who runs it, he's turning into agency. So we got him. And then we got, all kinds of people, and like my buddy's going to be running the website. So there's probably 5 to 10 people, people in the foundation. I've got a good handful of people in the foundation helping running that. So there's just, there's a lot of, I guess a lot of people working in the Sockibomb camp really to make things happen. And then they're going to have a guy coming out to Waco and film some videos, YouTube videos and stuff, and be able to have content for social media and stuff like that. And then potentially working with like Gatekeeper and during the season to do like an in season, like behind the scenes type of deal, and then be able to maybe release it in the off season. That's something we're working on. So yeah, just lots of stuff like that.
Well, you come in with the target on your back. You're number one in the world. You're the highest rated player in the world. You've accomplished a ton already in your career. When you're coming into the season as number one, what do you set your sights on for this year? Most people are aiming to be number one.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no. So for me, it's bringing my best game into the season, and that's how I know that I can sustain it and sustain the number one spot, because I'm going to play well week in and week out. So my main goal was to have a great off season, work out a lot, eat healthy, exercise, and just keep my body in shape to where I am able to be number one. Obviously you can't if you're injured. And so optimizing my body, optimizing my swing, my putt, my sidearm, everything, it feels amazing right now. Obviously, as an athlete, you want to say that to build your confidence up. You're always going to say, yeah, my game feels better than ever, the cliches like that. Because you're never going to be like, oh yeah, my game feels like crap. Like that's not going to boost your confidence. That's going to make your game worse. But and don't get me wrong, my game's not perfect. I nitpick and I'm a perfectionist. So there's always things I can work on and get better at. But my game does feel good. I feel like, I haven't really taken a step back switching sponsors. That's for sure. I definitely feel like my putting's great. My upshot game's good. And, so a lot of parts of my game that I feel personally are at a level that I want them to be. And that's important going into a season. Instead of some people, and even me for some years, I'm like trying to find my swing or trying to find my putt or trying to find my sidearm during the season. It's so hard to do that because you're playing week in and week out. You don't have weeks and weeks to say, hey, I'm going to go to the field every day. I'm going to work on my sidearm and get it dialed in. You're just like, all right, I'm going to play the tournament and hope my sidearm's better this week, and practice 1 or 2 days during the week. But then the tournament's on Thursday or Friday, so you don't really have a full couple days or a couple weeks to dial it in. So the off season is the most important time for a player to find their swing, find their game, find their confidence, and then carry that into the tournament and tournament season. And so that's kind of what my focus has been and my plan has been to keep the number one spot and keep performing at the highest level and the best I can.
So what tournament are you most excited for this year?
I'm excited for the Champions Cup. I play really well there. It's a major. I've won my first major in 2011 was at Jackson. I've won a lot of tournaments out there at Jackson. The IDGC has had a lot of tournaments out there, a lot of NTs, which is the biggest tournaments we've had. So I think the last 3 or 4 events they've had at IDGC I've won. Like I said, I just have a really good game. My game fits really well there at Jackson. Lots of scrambling, lots of shaping shots left to right, right to left. So it favors a player like me that has lots of shot shapes. And Vegas, I'm really excited about Vegas because I don't play very well there statistically. I've won it once, but I've gotten a lot of like 4th, 5th, 6th places. So I really want to have a chance to win. It's like I said, obviously it favors players like Eagle and players like that, and Ezra even. Just bombers, and I'm a bomber. But obviously, I feel like that I can adapt to almost any course, really. But yeah, there's just a advantage when you can throw 50 feet further than almost every player. So especially on an open course like that. But it doesn't mean I can't play well. I'm definitely not downplaying myself, but just from if you look up the numbers over the years, Vegas just hasn't been my best event, but. So I'm excited to change that and give myself a chance to have one of my better finishes and hopefully win in Vegas. So that's super exciting.
Okay, quick aside. Did it surprise you that Calvin and Ezra beat Double G and Drew in the distance competition at the All-Star event?
Calvin. See, no, that's the thing is no, because it depends on because you had to land in a fairway, right?
Yeah, you did. Like
a certain strip. So they may throw farther, but maybe they had, they just landed a good one in the fairway and Garrett maybe threw farther or something, but didn't quite land in the fairway and what didn't count. Plus you get a lot of different variables when you have a cumulative 2 people like that. Because you got to think over 5 throws, you got to throw a shot that lands in the fairway way down there, your best shot that lands in the fairway, not just a shot that maybe turns over and maybe lands only 500 feet as opposed to 600 something. So if you miss 1 or 2 or 3 of those shots, then now you have to tone it down, not throw as far, and just land in the fairway. So there's a lot more strategy than just distance when you only have a couple shots too. That's the other thing you got to think about. So yeah, that was, but still, I mean, Ezra throws far, Calvin throws far. People don't think so because it's just he throws golf lines where he just throws laser beams. So you don't think of him throwing far, whereas Garrett's throwing like a mile in the air and the thing's just going forever. So it's just totally different lines. But like I said, Calvin throws far. You just don't. He just doesn't throw the wow factor like the Simon or the Garrett lines.
Okay, so 2 more quick ones. First of all, tips for players who want to get better at scrambling. You're probably the number 1 scramble player on the planet. Statistics back that up, year after year. How do you work on that part of your game, and what can everyday regular players take from that in terms of trying to get better at getting out of trouble?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a great question. So if you're a newer player and you want to practice scrambling, go and put yourself in the trees, put yourself in the bushes to where you look like you have no shot, and dissect the shot, find the biggest hole, even if it's a tiny hole, find the biggest hole that you think can get yourself down there towards the basket. You're not trying to park the hole. You're just trying to get somewhere, throw a roller, practice a standstill, patent pending shot, practice a shot you have to throw straight up in the air and have your disc like hyzer out. Put yourself in those spots and just keep throwing and see how your disc reacts when you're throwing at these severe angles. Because most people aren't throwing at these crazy angles because they're just, I'm screwed. I can't throw a shot from here. I just got to pitch out. Well, no, you don't. And you can save a stroke because even if you hit a tree, you still have a chance to get up and down from where you're at. So that's what people don't realize is even when you're in trouble and you feel like you have no shot, put yourself in those tough spots and just work on being uncomfortable. Because when people play from the fairway and they play practice rounds or whatever at their home course and they just play from the fairway and don't go to the woods, like you're going to go in the woods. You're going to skip too far off left or right. So practice from there and then you'll feel a lot more comfortable being uncomfortable in those spots.
Great advice. All right. Last one here. You won 4 Elite Series events in 2021. We do over-unders here on the Upshot. So I'm going to give you an over-under. Over-under 4.5 Elite Series wins for you this year in 2022.
That's tough. 4 is good. I would say under, and I'm going to win a major.
Okay, there it is. Put it in the notes, Josh.
But of course, I'm going to try and prove myself wrong.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here, Ricky. We really appreciate you giving us some of your time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Good luck this season, and we'll see you out there at Las Vegas Challenge starting tomorrow.
Awesome. Good deal, guys. See ya.